There's an uptick in COVID cases and a new variant called BA.286, some 3.5 years since the pandemic was first identified. But if public health officials feel it necessary to ask America to mask up again, how many would comply? According to Gallup, in the first 2 years, public confidence in the U.S. healthcare system has dropped from 44% to 34%. And Donald Trump took to Truth Social to again make the issue political, accusing the latest outbreak to be hype designed to impact the 2024 election.
But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates. And we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates.
I am concerned that people will not abide by recommendations. And we're not talking about mandates or forcing anybody, but when you have a situation where the volume of cases in society gets to a reasonably high level, particularly the vulnerable, those who are elderly and those with underlying conditions, are going to be more susceptible and vulnerable if they do get infected to get severe disease leading to hospitalization. We know that. That's a fact. We've seen that. So I would hope that if in fact we get to the point where the volume of cases is such and organizations like the CDC recommend, CDC doesn't mandate anything, recommends that people wear masks, I would hope that they abide by the recommendation and take into account the risk to themselves and to their families.
Brett Stevens in The Times talked about Cochrane. Put that on the screen. The most rigorous and comprehensive analysis of scientific studies conducted on the efficacy of masks for reducing the spread of respiratory illness, including COVID-19, was published last month. Its conclusions, said Tom Jefferson, the Oxford epidemiologist who is the lead author, were unambiguous. There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference, he told the journalist Mayan Demasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said. Well, what about the studies that initially persuaded policymakers to impose mask mandates? They were convinced by non-randomized studies, flawed observational studies. How do we get beyond that finding of that particular review?
Yeah, but there are other studies, Michael, that show at an individual level for individual. When you're talking about the effect on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong. But when you talk about as an individual basis of someone protecting themselves or protecting themselves from spreading it to others, there's no doubt that there are many studies that show that there is an advantage.
Man, oh man. As you can see in that video where Fauci was talking to this other Edoman about the mask mandates. The other guy mentioned that how the mandates didn't even prevent the spread of certain diseases that were happening during the time of the pandemic. And Fauci over here trying to respond with a double tongue, knowing damn well there's evidence that shows you that it's proven that the masks don't work. During the last couple seconds of the video, he mentioned something about how there's no doubt that there's evidence that shows that there's advantage with the CDC mask. So it seems like basically what he's trying to say is that the mask is somewhat pathetic, but then again, it's like you do have some articles out there where he's suggesting that people wear masks either way. So it goes to show you right there that you gotta really understand this devil, and you have to really see the hypocrisy amongst this devil, man. And yet a lot of people still have their faith and their hopes in this devil. It shows you that Esau's a damn liar. That's why in the book of Sirach chapter 12 verse 10 it says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and be aware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked therewith. Exactly. And then verse 13 says, who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts? Right. So one that goes to a sinner and is a foul with him in his sins, who will pity? You see, that's something about Esau, man. Especially when he got a lot of people all jabbed up. A lot of people putting their trust in this devil, trying to get their jobs back, trying to get some benefits with the venom jabs that he was pushing, taking the jump shots. Man, you people are through. And then here it is, you have this other devil, Donald Trump, trying to go as far as mentioning how they will not follow the mask mandates, and that how he's trying to set in the minds of people to not go as far as following the lockdown procedures anymore if there just so happens to be another lockdown. And you see, just like how ancient Greece and Rome, how they fell, you know, you had it to where in the empire was divided. You know, when the ancient Greeks were ruling first, and then the Romans came and conquered the Greeks and started ruling after. You see, it shows you right there that Esau is just a house divided. The scriptures say what? That a house divided against itself shall not stand. You know? Because basically they're Edomites, but, you know, just different, you know, tribes amongst Esau, of course. But you're still the same nation either way. And we see the division that's happening amongst their politicians, you know, the Democrats and the Republicans, just like the plebeians and the patricians. It's like the patricians and the plebeians back then. And that was in ancient Rome, and that's how it is, like democracy and republicans in this time period. Showing me that America follows its customs from ancient Greece and Rome. Anyways, in the book of Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 28, verse 13, curse the whisperer and the double tongue, for such have destroyed many that were at peace. A backbiting tongue hath disquieted many, and driven them from nation to nation. Strong cities have it pulled down, and overthrown the houses of great men. A backbiting tongue hath cast out virtuous women, and deprived them of their labors. Whoso hearkeneth unto it shall never find rest, and never dwell quietly. The stroke of the whip maketh marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaketh bones. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not so many have fallen by the tongue. And you see, that's Esau right there, as well as all his philosophies. And yet you people out there still following after Esau because you don't have no understanding. Over here taking these jump shots and trying to make things go back to normal. And you people are through. And they over here talking about how there's a new variant now of COVID, and they mention that they claim it's worse than C-19, but hey, we already know that this devil gonna try to plan on bringing down the next lockdown. He's gonna come down harder than before, because the first lockdown was just a little test run. He's just over here experimenting on you stupid ass niggas, and even amongst his own people, these other nations as well. He's over here trying to put affliction on y'all. It shows you that how much of a devil he is, because he's a devil to his own people. And as it says in verse 16, whoso hearkeneth unto it shall never find rest, and never dwell quietly, because that's you basically, you know, pulling the Isaiah 30th chapter or Isaiah 31st chapter, trusting in the shadow of Egypt. And scripture saying in Isaiah chapter 28 that your covenant with death shall be disannulled. So you over here trying to trust in the devil, trying to trust the so-called white man and his mandates, and trying to go as far as following his agenda to make things quote unquote go back to normal. That shit ain't gonna happen. It's just not gonna work. And Esau has it to where people have these hats saying make America great again. America's never gonna be as great as it was before, like in the 80s or the 90s or so. And it was only great for mostly Edomites. This is captivity for you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. This society is not meant for you to prosper. This is Esau's kingdom we're talking about. And this is Psalms chapter 64, verse 2. It says, hide me for the secret counsel of the wicked, from the destruction of the workers of iniquity. from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. And verse 6 says, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. But Yahweh shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly they shall be wounded, so that shall make their own tongue fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. So even when Esau is over here speaking amongst the people on the news, whether it be these politicians, there's a lot of things that they're exposing themselves on, you know? Just like this devil here, Fauci, trying to respond to the evidence about how the face mask didn't really prevent the spread of, various diseases that was happening during the time of the pandemic. You know, that how wearing a mask or wearing the N95 mask or the or the surgical face mask, that it didn't make a difference. So yeah, so it shows you right there that this devil is full of shit. And in this article right here, it says Dr. Fauci admits there is a lack of evidence showing dreaded COVID mask mandates stop pandemic, but wants us to cover up anyways as cases spike. So you see right there, this devil is just an asshole. And I'm telling you, a lot of people ain't prepared to go through another pandemic again. Because, see, people was really so desperate on seeing the mirth continuing in this land, America. And honestly, if you don't have the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahshua, you're just through. Because these people felt like it was the end of the world during the lockdown. How much more with the second lockdown? Because Esau coming down harder with the second lockdown. And in Revelation chapter 13, verse 11, this may be the last scripture before I close out. It says, and I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Exactly, those two horns going into Democrat, Republican, just like in ancient Rome, the plebeians and the patricians. You see? It shows you right there. It's just ancient Rome all over again. And when you consider the customs as well, ancient Greece too. When it's coming to this devil Esau, he comes off like he's very innocent. You know, he comes off with human rights, Bill of Rights, all this BS, the amendments, constitutional rights, but yet he has laws that pretty much restrict those rights to the point where it's like the laws are draconian. And then the devil even goes as far to have it to where they label you as a potential terrorist for believing that you have constitutional rights. Because there's a thing with their whole New World Order agenda that they label certain people as potential terrorists based on their religious beliefs or based on certain political beliefs or things of that nature. I brought it out in one of my previous videos, probably like 2 years back or so, 3. It shows you that how this devil is full of shit. And this is why he's not to be trusted. But yet, a lot of people are going to follow after Revelation 13:16 and they're going to be, chipped. And that shows you right there that this is the reason why you need the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahshua to be within you to really not trust this devil. But yeah, with that, I hope I made this edifying. Let's give all glory, praise, honor to Adonai Yahweh Bashem Shalom Malaki Yahshua Bashem Kakadash. So honestly, possible citation for elect Shalom.